Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's reading of Setsuko's Secret. Today, we'll be discussing multigenerational trauma and the impact of the incarceration on the Japanese American community in future generations. Psychologists have developed entire practices studying the effects of the incarceration on Japanese Americans. Therapists such as Amy Iwasaki Mas, Satsuki Ina, who was incarcerated at Tule Lake and the FBI camp at Crystal City, Texas, Donna Nagata of the University of Michigan, and Nobu Miyoshi have shown the disabling and durable impact of the incarceration on the Sansei, detailing how younger Japanese Americans are crippled by a trauma they did not experience personally. Much of that, Mas wrote, comes from how the Nisei handle their own trauma. I came to realize that we lulled ourselves into believing the propaganda of the 1940s so we could maintain the comforting image of a benevolent Uncle Sam, she wrote. The insult, the pain, the trauma, and the stress of being imprisoned was so overwhelming, we used the psychological defense mechanism of repression, denial, and rationalization to keep from facing the truth. Many Sansei feel lost, in part because they do not understand the events that shaped their parents and grandparents and that directed their behavior. They do not know why their parents were obsessed with propriety, worked all the time, or carried an unspoken shame. Miyoshi said, however, that the Sansei could eventually determine their identity needs through open dialogue between themselves and their Nisei parents. The process by which such a goal is achieved in family therapy sessions requires mutual striving, giving, and trusting. My family never considered that. It never came up. My mother was warm and loving in many ways, especially when it came to worrying about whether we had enough to eat or whether we were wearing the right clothes. She nurtured us that way, not through hugs or by saying she loved us. In some ways, that created an emotional vacuum in which I operated, and of which I am only now making sense. Kunitomi and Karikababa, whose parents Masa and Jack Kunitomi were incarcerated at Heart Mountain, know the same experiences. All of the members of their large extended family had been incarcerated, but they never talked about it. Daryl Kunitomi said he drove his silent father around their native Los Angeles for 20 years. We used to call him Old Stoneface, Daryl said. The Kunitomis practice a familiar form of coping similar to ours. The evacuation and camp experiences had disturbed them so much that they, like tens of thousands of other Japanese Americans, rarely discussed them. They participated in Japanese American events in Los Angeles, such as the Nisei festivals in Little Tokyo, but they said little about the central shame of the Nikkei experience on the West Coast. For Carrie, there was one sign of trauma. Her mother refused to watch the 1951 movie about the 442 2nd Regimental Combat Team, Go for Broke, because her younger brother, Ted, had been killed fighting with that unit. They spent most of their family time with their mother's family, the Fujio COS, who were more fun and happier than the Kunitomis, particularly Jack's younger sister, Sue Kunitomi Embry, who carried her anger more openly. It was only after Masa Kunitomi died from cancer in 1985 and her children started having kids of their own that Jack Kunitomi began telling his own stories. We thought our father never talked, Carrie said, but once my mother died, he started talking and he never stopped. In our family, however, no one exposed us to unpleasant aspects of the incarceration. Our parents never mentioned it, neither did our aunts or uncles on either side of the family when we saw them, which was not often, other than my Uncle Al and my Aunt Kathleen, who remembered nothing about Heart Mountain despite being born there. Kathleen's daughter, Vanessa, realized her mother had been born in camp only when she asked her mother why the record said she had been born in Wyoming, when all Vanessa knew was that her mother's family was from San Francisco. Kathleen had wanted to assimilate into mainstream society as much as my mother, The only real contact we had at home with the larger Japanese American community was through the bi-weekly copies of the Pacific Citizen, the newspaper of the JCL, which featured a legal column by Raymond Uno called Uno Bar. I knew about neither the controversies surrounding JCL and the incarceration nor the larger divisions within the community. I got only one side of the story reading the Pacific Citizen, and I have spent the last 15 years learning the other side. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. And next week, we'll talk about art and the incarceration, featuring the work of Estelle Ishigo in my book, Setsuko's Secret. Thank you very much. And thanks for all your support and the donations that have been coming in to support the center. Thank you.